Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 255 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Rebholz. He's a creature designer and character concept artist from West Hartford, United States. And of course, before we go into the questions of the podcast, let me quickly mention that in the for contact section of the captions, you can find the ID to his Instagram account, the links to his website and YouTube channel, which is, if anyone is interested in seeing time lapses of his works and stuff like that, I highly recommend it. It's really good for studying, if you're trying to improve your game and workflow and stuff like that. So do definitely check that out. And with that out of the way, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. And actually, I think I mentioned, before we started recording, but you're the second episode I'm doing with the Google Meet platform. And yeah, it's still a bit new to me, the whole thing. And I was actually pretty nervous that the recording might not actually be saved in my drive, which I actually checked. My previous episode got saved. So this one's going to get saved as well, thankfully. So yeah, and to anyone who's listening or watching on YouTube, they probably can guess and tell that the format is a bit different. But I'm continuously trying to find a better way to, record a podcast. So to anyone who's listening and putting up with this new format for now, thank you so much. And with that out of the way, let's go to the first question of the podcast, which is, give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically, tell us your origin story if you have, what led you to become an artist, full time.
Sure. Well, it all started when I was 4 years old. And I was drawing dinosaurs and creatures. I'm an 80s child, so I grew up in the golden age of monsters, and it was just a really good time. I knew I always wanted to be an artist. I was drawing on my homework, drawing on everything. And through high school, I went to a performing arts school in Cincinnati. That's the original city I'm from, by the way. After that, I went to the University of Cincinnati, where my major was industrial design. And I just kept pursuing sketching and drawing and, just doing it whenever I could. I knew deep down that I wanted to do creature concept art because of the movies, like Predator, Aliens, all of the stuff that I grew up with. And after college, I started doing freelance. Should I get into detail on what companies I've worked for, or just kind of
yes, as much as you want?
Okay,
as much as you want.
Sure. So I did have a couple industrial design jobs in-house right after graduation in 2007. However, I still wasn't happy. I didn't get into the gaming studios like I wanted to. So after a couple of years, I started teaching at University of Cincinnati. I started teaching design drawing. So I knew it like the back of my hand. I just thought that I could help students. And right around that time, I knew that, okay, if I just pursued the freelance route and maybe got into a game studio through the back door, because most people in my field, they'll get into the in-house job first, and then they'll leave that job, and then they'll pursue freelance. Well, I was kind of backwards. So I went backwards, and then I started freelancing and started getting more gigs, working with companies like Sci-Fi Channel, Netflix. The first movie I worked on was just several years ago. It was The Sea Beast on Netflix. It was originally called Jacob and the Sea Beast, but it was a lot of fun. I've been a senior character concept artist for NetEase Games, working on their new game coming out called Ashfall. Recently was working at Snail Games USA. They have a big project coming out called Project Hermes. And just trying to weather this whole tech industry layoff bonanza, it's crazy right now. So lately I've been pursuing YouTube and just trying to teach through YouTube, while at the same time finally getting to work with one of my favorite outsourcing companies, Airship Interactive. So I'm just balancing full-time freelance with them, and then here I am still drawing creatures and characters. So that's it.
All right, awesome. And that's quite a path you took, it's kind of interesting to me, because a lot of artists who kind of grew up in 80s and then they got their start, I don't know, in their late 90s or early 2000s, they have some of the craziest stories of how they got into the industry, because of course industry was pretty young at the time, and there was and some of our favorite IPs right now that are so beloved by everyone are were pretty in their infancy at the time, because of the industry. A good example I could give of what I'm trying to say is I had John Alob like around the last winter on the podcast, and he casually said, "Oh yeah, I got in the industry in 2004 and 5. I started working on the DLC of Oblivion, then I worked on Fallout," and I was like, "Holy hell, that's like a couple of juicy projects to start off like as a junior or something, you know?"
Yeah, it's crazy.
And now that I'm hearing about your experiences as well, like you've worked on some really cool stuff as well, right? And I'm wondering, what basically what I'm trying to ask right now is what was one of your most memorable projects you worked on, your favorites?
Probably the movie, The Sea Beast. It happened by chance back in 2018 because my portfolio's on ArtStation, and a recruiter from Netflix just happened to fall upon my portfolio. And you know how it is with recruiters, it's kind of 50-50, like, are they legit, are they not legit? But this one was definitely legit. She contacted me and said, "Hey, the director Chris Williams is doing this new movie called Jacob and the Sea Beast. He's leaving Disney, joining Netflix because it could be a little edgier. Do you want to design creatures for it?" And I'm like, yes. So it was previs, which is pre-visualization. That's not like full-blown production yet. So I was literally at the forefront of just kicking off the original designs for the creatures. And of course, with my background, they were incredibly scary looking, and this was a PG movie. So I didn't know how much I could get away with, so I just made him scary. Worked with him for like 2 weeks. I'll never forget it. It was a lot of fun. And, the movie came out. It was a big hit, and I was really proud of it. It was the first time I ever saw my name in the credits. And like, I think, because like when you're a concept artist, you always wonder, are you really in the industry or do you just call yourself an artist? But when you see your name in it, it's like, oh, okay. And people start knowing who you are. So that will always stick with me. I'm really thankful for that gig. I'm thankful for all the gigs, but that one stuck with me. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And yeah, I mean, it's, I think a really important, event in any artist's career and life when they finally see their credits, naming their credits of a movie or a project they worked on, it feels kind of surreal for them, right?
Yeah, it does. And then it's like, okay, there's my name. What's next? Can I do it again? So can it happen again?
Yeah. And all right, here's another question that I think is really, this one I really was looking forward to ask you this about your design process, right? Because you're also a creature designer. You have to come up with a lot of abstract ideas for different projects. And what I want to ask you is, how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new piece or a project? Basically, what does the structure of your pipeline look like? Like, what is your thought process whenever you try to, brainstorm for a new, creature you have to design or, work on?
It's a combination of things, really. It's scribbling and thinking of the animals that exist on Earth now that most closely represent what I want to design. Now, with like all artists have their own style, so we kind of we wing a lot of the designs just to see what sticks and what doesn't with the art directors and the lead artists. But I always tell my students just to embrace scribbling and thumbnail sketching just to see what happens. So I'll time myself. I'll do a page of thumbnail sketches for creatures, and I'll scribble them, and each one lasts 2 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, I go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And pretty soon, you just made yourself a library of things to choose from. But it's really not about you. It's about the client. So whatever they choose, you go with it. And then what I try to do is think about the animals that are out there right now that kind of look like what I want. So if I want to do something that looks like a dragon, okay, what's out there? Okay, we got lizards, we have prehistoric dinosaurs and all of that. So I just look at reference that way. It's a lot of reference. A lot of people think that you just make this stuff up out of your head and then that means you're a good artist. And it's like, it couldn't be farther from the truth. So.
All right. And about the design of the creatures, what were some of in your opinion, basically what were the most impressive designs of monsters or creatures you've seen in media in the past couple of years, in your opinion, that's really made you go, wow?
A couple, actually. The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt, that Netflix original movie with the I think the creatures were called the White Spikes, and it was just this really gnarly alien creature with the tails themselves, or the tentacles, shot this hard resin spike at and it's crazy. Good design. Another fantastic design, I would have to say, 10 Cloverfield Lane. That creature has always stuck with me. I think that was made by Kurt Papstein. So Kurt, if you're listening, I'm sorry if you didn't do it, but it's whoever did that. It's fantastic. And then I would have to say a third one, Edge of Tomorrow, probably, with Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt. Like, what phenomenal aliens! Like they're super creepy, super scary. So I would have to say those three.
All right. And nowadays we talked about like the creatures and monsters in the big industry, but now I was wondering, do you also check into like, indie productions that, a lot of, creators upload on YouTube and stuff like that, the monsters, the indie analog horror stuff they put on? Do you also follow those as well?
Do you mean like indie studios? Or
no, I mean indie creators, like they're like very well known, like
yeah. I mean, I peruse ArtStation all the time, and I see a lot of artists that are not really well known, but they're just coming out with some phenomenal creatures. And I have my own set of reference folders that I just put inspiration in constantly. Maybe like once or twice a week, I'll go to like Pinterest or something. And I think that the beautiful thing about creatures is that they're so wide open as far as designs go that if you think you can't design them, you'd be surprised at what you could do. And like to put a better stamp on this, if you think you can't draw creatures, it doesn't have anything to do with drawing creatures. It's about not being able to draw. And I think that's what sticks with people's head. But even the people that can't draw well can still come up with awesome ideas. So a lot of the indie creators out there that may not be fantastic artistically, their ideas are super good. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to get you hired. So hopefully that'll give you some inspiration. If you're listening, you don't have to be an amazing artist to make it in this industry. Let's just say. I kind of went on a side tangent. Sorry.
No worries at all. No worries. And I know I'm kind of bombarding you with a lot of like quick questions, but this is like the last one for this section. What's like throughout your life, what was that one creature that really kind of like terrified you? By terrified you, I mean when you were like, I don't know, the lights were off and you had to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m. Your brain has started imagining things in the darkness or sounds or something. What has there any piece of media that even had that effect on you, or creature in a specific, anything like that?
Yeah, surprisingly it was not Alien. My favorite movie of all time is American Werewolf in London. And I mean, that movie came out when I was 1 year old. It got me obsessed with werewolves because that's my favorite creature ever. I'm super picky about it. So it never really scared me. I think demons scared me. It's stuff that I couldn't see. So all the stuff that I could see in movies didn't scare me because I just loved the creature part. I mean, I remember seeing Exorcist when I was 12, for the first time. It was crazy. I loved Predator, Aliens. I mean, the creatures in Howard the Duck, Ghoulies, like all the Freddy Krueger never scared me. Jason never scared me. Michael Myers, nothing. So I think I think it's like more noises than anything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like growling and like you think you hear something, but you don't know what it looks like. You just know it's not normal. Oh, and God, then you start to imagine what that is. That's what scares me.
Yeah, that's actually a huge theme in a lot of analog horror that there's on YouTube. Like couple of them that I can actually. And now this is like specifically I'm talking about horror, not necessarily creature design, but like there's a couple of like analog horror things that really made me go, wow, this is disturbing and kind of scary. Like the thing that's really had that effect on me was Mandela Catalog. I don't know if you heard about it or not. That was really well crafted, War Than Universe, and just piece of like art and lore that they put out on YouTube. And it's only made by one I think an 18, 19-year-old teenager, and he's doing a fantastic job. Actually, it's kind of scary. Like
What's it?
I'm
What's
going
it
on
called?
a Mandela catalog.
No,
Mandela catalog.
I haven't heard that.
Definitely do check it out. It's really great. And another type of like creature, which I know this isn't like well crafted creatures, but when it comes to their horror, it's really it once came to my nightmare. This is like a separate thing, like Siren Head. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, super creepy.
Yes. Oh god, that actually came into one of my nightmares like a couple of years ago once, and I was running away from it. Like in real life, I don't know why.
Have you heard, sorry to cut you off, but you just like reminded me of something. Several years ago, there's this experimental YouTube video that this person put out called The Backrooms. Have you heard this? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So the original Backrooms video, the one that was uploaded to YouTube that's got like millions of views, the entity, I guess you could call it. It's not a demon, it's not a creature, but it's an entity from another dimension, is in the back rooms with this kid. And it's the sound of it, it's just super creepy. It's like if you take Siren Head, but you turn him into even a thinner stick figure and you wrap wires around his arm, like it's super creepy.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's scary, I think.
Yeah, but another thing that's also really interesting was SCP like Foundation stuff. It's also another like indie horror stuff. Like I really like just how creative some people can be with the things they make. SCP is also really good. But the scariest of everything for me has been Mandela Catalog. Like it nails down horror perfectly.
Yeah,
like it's not cheap shock value like your faces jump into your head. No. Actually, the way it's actually set up, you want the face to finally jump out so the suspense should be relieved, but no, it's just a roller coaster of suspense and it just kills you with anxiety. But it's really well made.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that he's like 19 years old, but he's pretty good. Or there was this winner of like a Blender short film that it was this 16-year-old kid. Like I'm really curious to see what, like in 10-20 years, I think we're going to see even 10-year-olds or 9-year-olds are making stuff, because since they're being raised by technology. Yeah. And like 98% of them were just going to browse TikTok and games and stuff, but there's like those like few very small percentage who just see something and they're like, oh, I can make stuff with this. And by like, I don't know, age of 10, they're making like short films on 3D short films, or I don't know, making new pieces of media. It's fascinating when you think about it, right?
Yeah, it's great. It makes you want to do it.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you wonder if you were a kid and had all these resources, would you also do the same thing, or would you just get distracted by all the video games and just distractions that's available right now in this day and age for kids? You know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
Oh God! And speaking of like making universes and stuff like that, have you ever had this idea of like making your own IP and just universe and expand it bit by bit with stuff that you would draw and add into it?
Yeah, I actually did start one. It was probably like 6-7 years ago, and I kind of put it off. It's a project called EP.255. So it's a fictitious planet that's in another solar system. And the way I was drawing the creatures was that if a person was to take field notes in person, viewing these creatures from like a hiding spot. So somebody brings a journal to this planet and they sit and they start sketching the creatures out that they're seeing in the jungle and the forest. So I started to draw the pages that way. And it's on my art station. I haven't really touched it. Maybe I should, because it's been a while. So I do miss it.
All right.
Yeah.
And the next question I want to ask you is like the next section basically I want to jump into is, you kind of mentioned how you got into the arts and basically became an artist, but I was wondering, when you were like, I don't know, in high school and were thinking about picking a career path or thinking about college or stuff like that, were you originally studying art? Like, were you just set on studying art, or were there like other thoughts because of, I don't know, family, friends, or teachers that told you maybe have art on the side, but go somewhere safer to take a safer route? Or just, was it just art from the beginning, get-go, or were there any other plans involved?
No, it was from the get-go. I knew it. I mean, when I was a really little kid, I wanted to be a paleontologist because I love dinosaurs so much, but I was drawing the dinosaurs. I went to the School for the Creative and Performing Arts in Cincinnati, Ohio, and all 4 years of high school, well, eighth grade too. I was majoring in visual arts, so painting and commercial art, stuff like that. And then my teacher, one of my art teachers in my senior year, suggested going to University of Cincinnati for industrial design because I can continue my artistic endeavors, but learn a different side of art. So I was so used to doing organics, and this way it would teach me how to do thumbnail sketching, product sketching, cars, etc. And it just kind of ballooned from there. So I've stuck with it ever since I was 4.
Wow, that's awesome. Like knowing your what you're going to be your whole life since you're 4. That's powerful, actually. That's
I
kind of
was
deep.
dead set on it, man. I did not give a crap if parents were like, "Oh, you can't make money being an artist." I'm like, "Yes, you can. Yes, you can." Yeah,
That's awesome, man. That's
Thanks.
awesome. And now, there's a couple of things I want to ask you. Just generally, what were some of your favorites, video games growing up?
Let's see. Oh man, you really had to go down that path. Okay, let's go with teenager years. Street Fighter 2, definitely Mortal Kombat, all the Mortal Kombats. Mario 64, GoldenEye. GoldenEye got me into first-person shooters. And then from the time that the original Halo came out, I mean, I royally played Halo for years. Like, I was borderline semi-pro. I played that so much. Now I couldn't hang with, I could hang with the pros, but I wasn't as good as them. Doom, I did play the original Mario in the mid 80s, but it was really the 90s where it just blew up. Mario 64 and GoldenEye were just amazing. I'll never forget those. So that's what I've been playing.
All right, interesting. Yeah. So, and which of them have artistic-wise inspired you the most when it comes to your art direction of art you followed this whole time?
Probably Doom.
Yeah, and because of a lot of creatures and stuff like that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's not just that; it's the mixture of machines and the creatures, and they're evil. So I draw a lot of evil stuff. There's creepy stuff, like Silent Hill, big teeth, spikes and stuff, just because it's fun. I draw angels every now and then. I help some Kickstarters out, but for the most part, it's scary stuff. And Doom definitely got it.
You know what would be really creepy? There those paintings or illustrations of really evil, but just really dangerous, I don't know, creepy angels.
Yeah.
Who have this demonic, really just weird aura to them. Yep. There was this illustration I saw a couple of years ago. I actually can't remember and I couldn't find it, but it was really, really kind of just off-putting. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. It's biblically accurate or whatever you want to do. Just make sure it's super creepy.
Oh God, yeah. And oh yeah. About the cryptids, I'm sure that in USA there's a lot of people who just for fun are into going into this rabbit hole of cryptids and stuff like that. What are some of your favorite cryptids?
Oh jeez. Can you give me an example?
Like Bigfoot.
Well,
or skinwalkers.
Okay, so I do like Bigfoot, but I like stuff such as the Wendigo. Wendigo is always a good one just because there's so many interpretations of it, because most teens now look at Slender Man as like a Wendigo, but a Wendigo has been around since the Native American times, and it's just a really creepy creature. The Chupacabra. Trying to think. I binge watched Supernatural, the whole show, and they talk about all the cryptids. So trying to think of my favorites, but yeah, definitely the Wendigo probably.
Fun fact about Slenderman that you mentioned. I'm going to tell you something that's, to me, even to this day, is fascinating for me when I look at myself from a third person. So Slenderman, I think, came around around 2011, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, around those time. So and around those time I used to like browse 9gag to get up to date with memes and everything that was on the internet, right? And I saw a lot of posts from this game called Slenderman, and the comments were like, "Oh, this is Slenderman." I was like, I should give it a try. And that's all I knew from Slenderman. So I did. And here's the fun fact. I kept playing it. I was like, oh, you can't run for a long time. You have to be conservative about it. You can't, your flashlight runs out. So, oh, this is interesting and good. But I didn't know that you actually had to run away from Slenderman. So whenever I saw this guy in the map suddenly appear in front of me with like, tuxedo, and I was like, oh, maybe I should interact and talk with him. So I go into Slenderman and the game, I was like, what is wrong with this game? I wasn't afraid of a Slenderman at all. All right. But wait. Here's what fascinates me. After I saw some clips of people being afraid of Slenderman, I don't know what happened in my brain. I suddenly started being afraid of it. So anytime I would see Slenderman, I would just run away and scream and just try not to, just control myself basically. And it fascinates me because before I got that reference in my brain that it was supposed to be scary, I wasn't scared at all. At all. I would just run into Slenderman. I was like, hey, what is game? What's wrong? Yeah. And when I found out that reference subconsciously got put in me, then from then on, I couldn't be like before. I was like, wait, no, I'm scared. I need to go away. Yeah. Have you ever experienced something like that, or have you seen something like that? To me, like even from third person, when I look at it, this is really weird for me. Even though I was the one who experienced it,
I haven't, but you actually reminded me of something. So I mentioned the Wendigo as like my favorite cryptid, but there's another one that actually creeps me out, and it's the Mothman. And I don't know if you've heard of the Mothman prophecies and the Mothman in general. Have you heard that? So
the only thing I've heard about, I think it's in Appalachia, right?
Yeah, they made a movie about it with Richard Gere probably about 20 years ago or whatever. So the Mothman is this ancient entity that shows up in towns and neighborhoods with like this. He's huge. He's like 10 feet tall, scary black eyes, and you can see him out the window and stuff. And he has wings like a moth. He shows up before major death happens. So if you get a chance, maybe watch the Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere. And the movie is based on this place. I believe it's in West Virginia. It's like on the border of Ohio and West Virginia. It's a true story about people saw this Mothman, and it looked human, but something was very, very off-putting about it. So it wasn't quite human. Psychic abilities and stuff, you couldn't really see him or it, but there was a major bridge collapse in this town. True story. And I think like 20 or 30 people died. Like too much weight was on the bridge, and it collapsed with all the cars on it. And the Mothman started showing up in this town a couple days before that bridge collapsed. And it's just really creepy, and you definitely want to get away from this thing. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's kind of like when you dream about a creature or an entity and you wake up and you go, what the heck was that about? Like, you don't even know. So, yeah, it's good.
Like, this concept of, like, for me, basically, personally, dreams have been a huge source of, like, inspiration when it comes to, like, thinking about, or I'm not a horror creator, I'm not a horror artist, but since I was a kid, I've been having a lot of nightmares, and it's something that I'm trying to use it in a good way, because I'm actually using them as inspirations for, like, maybe writing horror or just making a horror game, because the creatures I've been seeing in my dreams since I was like 8, 9 have been some of the most scariest things I've ever seen. And oh god, like, just like, have you ever had any experience like that?
Yes, all the time.
Like, seen a made-up creature you've never seen before in your dream?
Yeah, all the time.
Have you ever drew any of them?
Yeah.
Oh, which ones?
I can't remember, because it's just like subconsciously they all pour out into my head onto the paper. So it's like, with me, a huge influence of my art has come from movies. So even farther than for video games. So like, movies have influenced my brain, which gives me crazy dreams, and then I wake up and I draw what I dream. So I guess you could say the root of it is movies. But whenever I draw creatures, I tend to morph human-like elements into animals and creatures, so it gives that creepy factor. And when I dream stuff, I see that. I just see strange creatures running around sometimes that don't move correctly, but who am I to say they're not moving correctly? They got weird skin, or it's hard. And you want to draw right away because you're going to forget what it looks like, but it's like 3:15 in the morning and just like, no. So I guess doctors say you should write down your dreams so you don't forget, but
yeah.
Didn't you forget?
I still remember one creature I saw in one of my nitros was running away from when I was I think 9. It was this weird, this yay big, like moth-like insect. It had like teal, yellow colors in its wings, and I could feel the graze of its wings flapping on my calf as I was running. That's when I screamed out of my bed.
Oh,
I remember. And oh god, like it was just the scariest thing ever.
That's frightening, actually.
Yeah, yes, and not just that. I also experienced. I consistently, since I was like teenager, I even till a couple of months ago, I see like sleep paralysis demons and people sometimes. That's like because I don't know. Have you experienced that sleep paralysis?
I have experienced that, but not to the degree that a lot of people have, where they can't move for like 20 minutes and they see an entity straight up in their face. But I'll never forget this. One night I woke up. You know how sometimes when you wake up and you're awake, but you haven't opened your eyelids yet, so you just keep them shut? I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so like you won't open your eyes. I felt pressure. It felt like somebody was pushing my head down into the pillow and not suffocating me because I was laying on the side, but it's like I wasn't allowed to get up. And it just, whatever it was, just kept pushing down and pushing down and pushing down. And I couldn't move. Couldn't move my arms, couldn't move my legs or anything. It was the strangest thing. I know some people see, I've had some pretty frightening experiences when I was really little. Like I won't go into details, but it was basically neighbors we think they were into witchcraft, and they were just releasing stuff around the neighborhood that shouldn't have been released. Like it was bad. Like I'd be like 3 years old, and I would see entities sitting up on my chest of drawers, just staring at me, just like balled up, just black shapes, just like looking at me. And I was 3. Like that's when memories can't really remember stuff. So I'm just glad it never really traumatized me, but kind of used that to my advantage and just drew creatures the rest of my life. But yeah, man, that stuff's no joke. I definitely believe in sleep paralysis and seeing stuff.
What you mentioned is kind of interesting for me because I don't know exactly what it is, but I've experienced something very similar to what you experienced. Like I was just laying on my bed, and in the middle of the night, I woke up and I felt something was just pressing on my stomach, and at the same time was trying to drag me down like an arm from under my bed, dragging me down under the bed. And I kept looking and I couldn't see anything. There was nothing. It was like a mass shape of black or something. I mean, the room was dark, of course.
Yeah.
So of course, when you're in that situation, your brain starts imagining things as well, to fill in the gaps. And I literally had to fight this thing that was pulling me for good 30 seconds. Then it got released. Yeah. Similar to the thing you described with the head being pushed to the pillow. Like, yeah, and honestly, my sleep paralysis demons, here's a funny thing. They weren't like demons. They were actual people I've never seen in my life. That's even more scary if you think about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Strangers. Now, if it's a monster, you can quickly fill in the gaps. Okay, this is my imagination. This isn't real, right? But when it's like people you've never seen that feel like people, they're like, who the hell is this guy?
Get out of my room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like everyone kind of experiences like in your dream when you try to run or fight, everything is a slow motion. And even when you're asleep paralysis, you're paralyzed. You can't do anything. You order your brain to move my fist to this person's face that's in my room, but nothing's working.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure anyone who's listening to this podcast at this point on, they realize this podcast isn't necessarily like any other art podcast. We just talk about little things.
Seriously, it does influence art, everybody.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, but I think this stuff is really important to talk about, honestly, because they're like there's like nuances that shape like the taste bud of the artist, basically what I'm trying to say, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And like going back to art, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Sure. Well, when I first fell in love with this industry, like when I was younger and just getting into high school and stuff, and then through high school was Stan Winston. So rest in peace, Stan Winston. But Stan Winston Studios was responsible for building the first Terminator robot, Terminator 2, designing the Jurassic Park, like the original Jurassic Park dinosaurs, Pumpkinhead. Like, he was such a great artist, and he influenced so much in what I see. And then to get into modern day artists, Piotr Jablonski. I'm so sorry, Piotr, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but I believe it's Piotr Jablonski. I always liked Neville Page. Like, he's such a good creature designer. When I first saw the first Cloverfield, thought that was a really great design. Kurt Papstein, definitely. I'm also a big fan of environment concept artists too. It's just kind of racking my brain trying to think of actual names. So sorry, but I think those are some of the artists that are really influencing me. So I can give like a whole list.
All right, awesome. Yeah, actually, the point of this question is to put the artist on the spot when I'm asking this. Sure, like there's 100 people you can name if you've had time to prepare for it. Yeah. But the ones that have popped into your head and you gave it to me were the actual answers, if you think about it, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, about like also like looking at a lot of your sketches, you know, especially like, you know, for me, like I looked through your work, like one of your like basically favorite pieces I've seen from your designs was the giant bolaba that I think you posted near September.
Yeah.
I really like that.
The bolaba.
Yeah. Bolaba. That's how you say it. And well, what is the thought process about it? Like, tell me a little bit about the work building of it.
The bolaba. So
yeah.
Okay. So I've always been a fan of just absolutely massive beasts, just stuff. Because when I saw the first Mist movie, the only Mist movie, not to give anything away for people that, you know what, I better not say anything. Anyway, I wanted to create a creature that was absolutely gigantic, but you can also ride. So I was thinking, how cool would it be to have this creature in like a desert region? So it kind of looks like a camel, and there's some merchants that sit up on this creature big enough to hold a village, like a small merchant town or whatever you can trade. And then you can get up there and you can ride with it across the desert. So I thought, okay, it's going to be a gigantic creature, kind of like a camel. Let's see what happens. So I did it. And I just started drawing it, drew the face first. And then I just had to make sure the perspective was correct. And then I started putting people sitting on it, and just kind of evolved as it went. So that was my thought process. I knew I had the general idea of what I wanted, but not how I was going to apply the drawing, like the lines and stuff. So
yeah, and the reason I specifically mentioned this is because I actually feel inspired by this. You know, this is actually, as I said, is one of my favorite pieces of your works, and the thing is, you know, for anyone who looks at your works and feels inspired to want to, maybe someone who's like a junior who hasn't started in art, or maybe not a junior, someone who just got inspired to give creature design a shot, you know, to anyone who wants to start in this field, what tips and advices do you have for that? Like for people who want to start out, like how should they start out? You know, basically the stuff we would tell your younger self, you know?
Are you talking like just as a creature designer, like a niche, or getting in an industry in general, like a concept?
No, creature designer is a niche.
Okay. All right. So first and foremost, you got to know anatomy, because if you don't have anatomy down, you don't have to be a genius at it, but study animals. study skulls, bone structures. One of my favorite creature designers is Terrell Whitlatch. So Terrell Whitlatch has just some great book on Amazon right now. Actually, a couple books. She goes into detail about movements like joints and the way the bodies move when you sit down versus stand up, because I feel like, and this is just coming from me looking at portfolios now, a lot of these creatures lack believability to the point where you have to imagine that nobody else in your workspace is going to have a job unless you do yours correctly, which means like if the concept is not done correctly, the modeler can't model it. And if the modeler can't model it, the animator cannot rig it and animate it because it won't move correctly. So it's your job to flesh out these creatures as best you can. So when I do stuff for games, like a lot of my stuff in my portfolio is just free time. I have a lot of stuff under NDA that I'll be posting soon. And you have to be good at showing turnarounds. Okay, so if you're going to do a creature, what does it look like from the back, from the front, from the top, with the mouth open, mouth closed? What's a functional feature that makes it unique? All of these things, instead of just plopping out a creature in a portfolio that's 90% done and hoping somebody will see it. And that's what happens all the time. But like all of that ties into just to make sure that your creature is believable. Study reference. If your creature kind of looks like a horse, but not really, study horses. And then you can mold and manipulate the shapes and bone structure and stuff like that, after you get the initial anatomy down. That's like top priority. No anatomy. So much so, here, I'm going to add to that. Gail Gershenbaum is one of the best modelers out there. He's done a lot of stuff for NPC and different movies. His portfolio, he's a 3D artist, but his portfolio consists of just regular animal sculpts, yet he's in charge of designing creatures for movies and games. So there's like no made up stuff in this portfolio. That's it. So if you understand nature, then you'll get a job as a creature designer, because that's exactly what they look for. Hopefully that helps without being long-winded.
Yes, definitely. And speaking of fleshing out the details as much as possible so the next person in the pipeline could get it better, I was wondering, I'm asking this question on behalf of any 3D modelers who might be listening to this episode and are interested in doing practicing with making creatures in 3D. Does anyone have permission to use your concept to concepts that have been made into 3D to practice them and for 3D creature design, and of course with credits and everything?
Oh yeah, I mean, I get asked all the time, like, hey, can I model this creature? Can I model that? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to see that thing in 3D, man. And like a lot of them do a really good job at it, especially if you get some higher up senior concept artist that's just trying to do stuff on his or her like free time. Like, yes, you're going to do my creature. I want to see this sucker, So I get excited.
Yeah, I always, get the chance whenever I get someone on the podcast who's doing like amazing concept jobs. I always ask this question, on behalf of any 3D artists who might be listening, because believe it or not, some people actually don't want their works to be used in even practice or be posted, with mention. Yeah. That still, baffles me, but still, of course, to each of their own, But, I always ask this in front of as a little Easter egg for anyone who's listening to the podcast, in case they want to, use your concepts as a reference. And thank you so much, by the way, for giving people that permission. That's really helpful. As a 3D artist as well, I really appreciate it when a concept artist gives that permission.
You're welcome.
And thanks so much. And what area, besides the area you're working on right now, which is of course in terms of art and visual arts and stuff like that, do you have going on in your life? Like basically any non-art related stuff you got going on in your life? Do you have anything?
Non-art related? Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a single dad. I got a 5 and 3-year-old. I love it. I try to work out at least 5 days a week. I love fitness. Because COVID made everybody work remotely now. More companies are accepting it. A lot of us artists who are introverts are kind of used to being a freelancer already. So we're just kind of, let's open the curtains. Let's eat in 3 hours. I always try to take my 10,000 step walks a day. Just trying to stay active. That's really it. And just getting my YouTube going. I just got monetized like 2 weeks ago. I did not expect
Congrats.
it. It was insane, man, because of one video. I've had my channel since like 2012, and I let it sit dormant for years. We're talking, if you don't mind hearing this, I don't know, I could just shut up. I had it for like years, didn't post, and posted a little bit 2018. I don't know. So it just feels good to kind of get it. And also, I was laid off in June, and I'm kind of getting tired of getting laid off. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take this into my own hands, and I'm just going to maybe, I don't know, turn my YouTube into a business. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, you definitely, I think, I don't know if you've done it or not, but I think you can really, make it sell a really good course, on creature design or stuff like that. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people who will, get it.
I have a creature design workshop that I do. It's creaturedesignworkshop.com. And we also have a Discord. Maybe, I don't know, like the link shows up on my Discord, but maybe or my YouTube. I hold the workshop every month. It starts, usually we can get 8 sessions in a month. So it's like we meet twice a week, 1 hour each session, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I record all the sessions, and then we meet on Discord. So the room that we meet in is specifically for you, who's a student, and I just teach creature design that way. But like what you were saying about just having a course, I'm really thinking about having an expanded, just overall foundation drawing course. That's ultimately what I want, just to teach people a better methods on drawing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll definitely give it a shout out, once you release it. By the way, for anyone who's listening, the link to the website, Creature Design Workshop, and also the YouTube channel, Bobby Rebholz, is down in the description below. So if you want to check it out, you can easily, find it. The caption of this episode as well, wherever you're listening or watching it, it's there. And also for monetization of YouTube channel, I think you need 1,000 subs, and another condition is have 40,000 or 4,000 watch hours in 1 year.
4,000. Yeah, 4,000.
Yeah, in 1 hour. In 1 year, sorry.
Yeah. That's
like, like for example, for anyone who's wondering about it, so if you start your YouTube channel in the January 1st of 2024, by the end of 2024, if you get 1,000 subs and also, get 4,000 watch time, you'll get eligible for monetization. I think, I think my YouTube channel for the podcast, I basically doing nothing for it. I'm just uploading the video versions of the podcast for it. But I recently finally broke into 900 subs after 3 years.
The good news is that September or October, they lowered the monetization requirements for.
But still, I need to really take it seriously as well. The YouTube. Yeah.
Because so now the lower tier monetization is 500 subs and 3,000 watch hours to allow super chats.
Community tab, I think.
Oh, channel memberships. That's another thing. And then there's one other thing that they let you have, but the 4,000 watch hours will allow YouTube ads. So you still have to get 4,000 watch hours for the full monetization, but it kind of helps newer YouTubers who are maybe struggling getting that huge tier, monetize a little sooner.
Yeah, but hearing from a lot of people who are trying to do YouTube or doing YouTube, basically the meta right now isn't necessarily getting monetized on YouTube and making money that way. It's usually right now making an audience for yourself, like whether on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, then funnel that into a website that you're selling a product or memberships, Patreon, something like that, because the YouTube monetization or TikTok monetization is nothing basically. But YouTube monetization is the thing that most people really rely on. A lot of people, especially from third world countries, because the economy difference is really helpful. Like, believe it or not, my rent here is like $90 in Turkey.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yes.
So if I make like $800 per month from YouTube, I can. It helps,
You're good. You're good.
Yeah. So because I'm in Turkey, not a country that the economy isn't really well. Like if I was in, I know a lot of people who are in Iran. There was this guy who made 3,000 euros from YouTube for 1 month, and he's living pretty large in Iran. Like, Iran is even worse than Turkey when it comes to economy.
Yeah.
So yeah, but for example, I imagine if you make $800 in, like, I don't know, USA, it will help you with groceries or bills, I guess, a bit.
Yeah.
But not that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, YouTube is really huge here if you can actually make it. And well, we've reached the final question section of this podcast, which is called Time Capsule. Basically, I guess by the name of it, you can also already guess what I'm trying to ask you is, but let me put it this way. If you could summarize and distill the most valuable lessons and experiences you've learned in life by now, and if you could tell it from one person, one human being to any other human being, and that another human being as anyone who's listening to this podcast at any point of time in the future. So what would be those lessons if you had to tell them?
Okay, so likes don't matter. Of all the stuff that I have learned, it's taken me years to know this, social media is pretty much really destroying our minds and our confidence if you let it, especially art, because artists, when they upload work to social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, whatever, just because you don't get a lot of likes doesn't mean you suck. And I just want everybody out there to know, if you really want to make it in this industry, just stick to your guns, set a schedule and set a list of goals for yourself, and do that regardless of what's happening online. Online, it's hard to explain, but if you find yourself comparing your work to other higher up artists, it's so discouraging, and it just makes people quit. And quitting, like, you won't know what you can achieve if you quit. Even if you fail, at least you try. And I'm trying to sum everything up into just this. Stop comparing yourself to other artists, and you will succeed. So.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. That's a really great note to end this episode on. And thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule for this podcast. I really appreciate it. And where can people contact you if they had any questions? Is there Instagram okay?
Bobby Rebholz at gmail.com. Just an email that I use. So feel free to email me.
All right. Folks, you heard it right here, Bobby Rebholz at gmail.com. And thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And yes, as I mentioned before in the early, beginning of this episode, I'll try to find a better way to record episodes, because before that I used to use Zencaster for 3 years before it turned into a subscription-based model. The great thing about it was it had separate audio and video files for each guest in the call, so that was perfect for editing. But right now I'm relying on Skype and Google Meet, but hopefully soon I'll try to find a way to make the format much better and cleaner for the future episodes as well. But I'm sure this was also good as well, but you can always do better. And again, as always, if there was any comments or critiques, leave them down in the comment section down below, or just send it to me, send a message on the Instagram page of the Kouryer Podcast. And with that being said, take care, everyone. Stay safe till the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.